David, thank you for being here
Jonah, it's a
in the
pleasure, man.
flesh. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
in person.
Yeah, we're here. It's just been, I've obviously read all your books. Your Ashtanga Yoga manual is like my Bible.
Great.
But it's nice to just, I've heard so many stories about you from my father, from my uncle, from my grandfather, from
Yeah,
Maui. So it's really just an honor to be sitting here across from a yoga legend.
it's my honor to be here, Jonah.
And yeah, there's just so many like little stories and gems I want to get into and just kind of, get into the flow of your wisdom and experience. So I
Great.
guess where do we start?
I
where
don't know.
where did this all kind of begin for you?
Well, just in general, I grew up in Houston, Texas, yeah, which is the hub of spirituality, as you know.
I'm like,
But I
yeah.
grew, yeah. So I was born in 1956. By the time I was 13, my older brother, Doug, I'm the youngest of three kids. I have an older sister, my brother's in the middle of me. He got into surfing. You can surf in Texas. And then he went to California in the summers and surfed there, heard about yoga, came back and started doing yoga.
Wow.
That was the seed. And it's hard for people to understand now, but there were no yoga teachers. There were no yoga studios, no yoga clothes, no yoga books. No, there were yoga books, but no,
Very
no
few.
yoga mats and stuff. So we got a couple of books. We go to the park, read them, and try to emulate what we read in the books. That was how simple it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And then when did you so my father's teacher was David Williams.
Yep.
Where did you meet him? And you were telling me about how you took over his classes in Maui. You
Well,
was that after?
there's so many stories that I go into in great detail in my book. We can talk about it later, but I was growing my hair long. It's 1972, 73. And you could not have long hair in Texas and go to school because they had these rules. Boys' hair couldn't be long, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want to cut my hair. So my option was either cut it or wear a wig. So I wore a short haired wig for 3 years to high school.
No way.
Yes. Yeah. And I've told this story in other interviews, but it's still a fun story. So they were going to boot me from school. All the principals were ex football coaches and stuff. They just had rules in their mind. They didn't care about education. And there was one word you never say to these guys, which is no. So
Mhm.
one day, first day of school, the guy comes up and goes, "You know what time it is, boy?" I knew it was a rhetorical question. I wasn't going to say 11:15. So I just wait. And he goes, "Well, it's time for a haircut." And that's when I said no. And this caused a big problem. They were going to boot me from school, but they decided to have a big community meeting to discuss it. The whole Houston Independent School District, thousands of students,
Wow.
they held it in a gymnasium at a high school. And on the stage was all the administrators. They all looked alike. They had these buzz haircuts and kind of constipated looks on their face. And they gave the varying degrees of the same presentation, which was, if we allow these hippies to grow their hair and we don't have some rules, we risk all structure of society crumbling down. We have to nip this in the
Mm.
bud, take it down now. And they each give varying degrees of that. Then there's a microphone in a sea of people out there where people can walk up and talk. My dad was a criminal defense attorney, so he was used to trying cases, but nobody wants to walk up to the microphone, so he steps up and he says, "My dear gentlemen, to my knowledge, Jesus had long hair. Moses had long hair. Albert Einstein had long hair, and the founding fathers of this great country, the United States of America, they all had long hair.
Never thought of that.
My sons, therefore, in very fine company, and I'm not going to force them to cut their hair, so I simply ask of you, what is the alternative?" And this is when they freaked out, left stage, came back and said short-haired wig. So that's how I ended up wearing a short-haired wig. But I couldn't deal with it after 3 years. So I left home and went to California because I'd been going out there in the summers to surf. And so I wrote my parents a letter, told them I loved them. I was 16 and I went to California on my own.
Oh my goodness.
I enrolled
Free
in high
spirit.
school out there and got a job at Captain Kino's selling burgers. And
Wow.
at that point, a friend of mine, well, he was my brother's buddy here in Texas, same age as my brother. He was out there and he goes, David, you're into yoga. Come and check out this yoga class. And I walked with him in the early morning in Southern California. It was kind of cold. And there's this room and it's not heated. And I see these people, there's this sound of breath, like the walls are breathing and there's sweat dripping from their body and steam rising from their skin. And I'm just like, wow, what is this? I've never seen, yoga was kind of fluffy, you just sort of hold a pose and hold a pose. And this was like people jumping around and standing on their hands. And there's this couple walking around. And one guy walks up to me and goes, "Hi, who are you?" I said, "David." "Oh, hi, David. I'm David." It's David Williams and Nancy
No
Gogoff.
way.
And I was 16.
I got the chills.
Yeah. And so
Wow.
David was probably in his mid 20s or something at the time. To me, that was old, when you're 16.
Yeah.
And so they thought it was cool. I was this kid that was fired up. The first day I got 3 Surya Namaskara A, 3B, and the final 3 postures of closing. That's all I could do. But I lay on my back and I look and I saw fingers of steam rising from my skin. And I was like, whoa, I want more of this. And that's what started it. And so I met David, and from David, did a bunch of other stuff. That was 1974,
Wow.
73, 1977. David and Nancy were going back to Mysore. David was going to learn the rest of the series. And he called me in Houston, Texas. "Hi, David. This is David." Now, those of you who don't know, David Williams, that's what he sounds like. He's
Yep.
from North Carolina.
He's got that
He still
twang.
talks like, he hasn't lived in North Carolina for 60 years.
To
He
this
still
day.
talks like that.
Yeah.
"Hi, David. This is David. Nancy and I want to go to Mysore. We want to know if you want to come to Maui, take all our classes for us." So I did. I went 1977 to
honor.
Maui and took over his classes.
What was it like back then in Maui? Like
Oh man, it was
that was like the original hippie community, wasn't it?
well, Southern California became too intense for them. So they moved over to Hawaii and set up on Maui. And they were in Lahaina, which, just on a side note, so sad, Lahaina's gone, man. It burned, the fires. It's just like heartbreaking,
Devastating.
moment of silence for that,
Yeah.
But it was simple. We were just broke hippies doing yoga. And David would tell a story about his early days teaching in Hawaii. He says, "Well, I'd go to the park, I'd do my yoga, and people would come up and say, 'What are you doing?' I'd say, 'Yoga.' If you want to learn the yoga, you come here every morning, I'll teach you the yoga." And he said people would come and they'd do their practice, and I'd tell them, "I'm going to do this by donation. I'm going to put my hat under that mango tree. Every day after your yoga, I want you to go look in the hat. I want you to put a donation in there. Every day after teaching, I'd go look in the hat, and there's a banana, mango, and a joint." He goes, "I already had all those things. That's okay."
Oh.
That people paid with what they had.
He really just trusted the universe, huh?
But he also just said, you think about it. He said, we didn't need much.
Mm.
We lived simply, lived in tree houses. You could live with not much money. Yeah. And one thing I still remember from then, if you don't need much, you don't have to work as hard. The more stuff you want, the harder you got to work. So if you can learn to live simply, there's some freedom in that.
There's a lot of freedom in that.
So yeah, they put me in charge and left. By that time, they had moved onto a little piece of property at 1010 Front Street. We built the yoga room. It had a dirt floor.
Wow.
Had 8 walls, like a yurt, sort of. 4 walls you could practice handstands. 4 walls were screened. The dirt floor, we got old carpet remnants from dumpsters at hotels. When they would remodel, we'd get the carpet and put it over the dirt. So dirt floor, carpet on top, a clear plastic roof, because that's all we could afford. So it had these poles that we cut from trees, clear plastic roof. It was the early days of hot yoga. It's like it was great for growing tomatoes, but if you didn't get in there really early,
It was humid
it
in
was
there, huh?
hot. It was just hot.
It was like a garden
Well,
room.
Lahaina means the place of relentless sun, where the sun always shines. We had a clear plastic roof in this place. Anyway.
Wow.
So, but it
Be
was
thankful for your yoga studio.
yeah. And so in Ashtanga, you're jumping around a lot, so it would make a little dent in the floor because there was dirt under the carpet. So every day after class, we roll up the carpet, smooth out the dirt, roll the carpet back. Now people complain because they've got to sweep the floor after. I'm like, dude, we had to rebuild the floor every day.
They're complaining about mopping,
Well,
but
but this is now, I'm realizing I'm like Grandpa Swenson telling stories. Back when I learned this yoga, yes, sir, we didn't practice on them fancy sticky things. No, we practiced on broken glass. Yes, we did. So it's a little
Grandpa
like that.
Swenson, man.
Yeah. So, but it was simple. and fun. We
Totally.
all had fun.
That's the
It
essence of
nowadays,
it,
when
huh?
people ask me to sign my book, I always just say, "Have fun practicing." If you enjoy something, it's not even a discipline. You wanna do it the next
So
day.
why are Ashtangis so freaking serious?
Well, that's something that came later, you know? I think it's,
They're so
there's
dogmatic,
well
aren't
well
they?
well, I wanna say this about everybody, and I don't in general, I don't think, teachers should waste their time, energy, and breath in talking about bad about other teachers or
Of
systems,
course.
but just looking at it and going, "What I'll believe what happened is back in the day, it was just a few of us doing this." I went to Mysore in 1977. There were 3 people there. So Patabi Joyce had all day, to practice and help you, and we practiced twice a day, 2 series every time, all this kind of stuff. It was
Wow.
just like that. In more recent years, if you went to Mysore, there could be 500 people.
It's much
So it
different.
changes just in general from the early days when there are only a few people doing it to when there's hundreds. It became a thing where there enforcers of rules. If you can't bind here, stop. If you can't do this, stop. If you can't do that, I never stop somebody because they can't bind their hands in a posture. Like Marityasana D, for instance, it's not called Baddhahasta Marityasana. It's not called the bind your hands posture.
No.
So why put the emphasis on that?
Mm,
And I've asked teachers why they stop people, and they said, well, it's dangerous if you let people go on. And I say, but people are getting injured because you're stopping them.
mm,
And they'll take issue with that. And I say, yeah, but the point is, if the focus is binding your hands and I'm having a hard time doing that, I don't want to live the rest of my life in that posture. So I'm going to push beyond my abilities so I can get that bind. Teachers, if their whole focus is behind the hands and they're just focused on that, the weakest links are the low back and the knee, so people get injured.
wow.
I put it on instead, I would call integrity of practice, the
Mm,
quality of breath, the presence and focus of a student.
mm,
Whether they're binding or not, if they have those 3 things lined up, let them keep going until that falls apart
wow.
because you're safe if you're focused on your breath.
Mm,
So the seriousness and things, I don't fault teachers for doing that. I believe honestly that it's their sincere desire to feel like they're protecting something.
yeah.
And they
Something
want to
sacred.
hold on, and this is a sacred thing, and protect it all that you can. I understand that, but it has the opposite effect.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's it.
And I've always felt that we have to be cautious that we don't turn it into just some kind of an elite fitness program. People with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a strong, healthy body. Is it really yoga?
Mm,
I've never met anyone cannot do it. I've met people don't want to, but I've taught people in wheelchairs. I watched Patabi Joyce teach a quadriplegic boy in 1977. His family would place him in the yoga shala. He could only move his head. He'd place him in the shape of an asana and have him breathe.
wow.
I've worked with people missing limbs, severe arthritis, bedridden.
Mm,
Rather than focus on what someone cannot do, you figure out what they can and build upon that. And that's true on our own practice as well. I'm at a different phase, yeah. I'm going off into the sunset and donating asanas to charity. I talk about, we put asanas in a bank account and we're fascinated. We get so many of them. We think it's great. You reach a point in life where you start giving them away.
what do you mean by that? Like, just like you're not going down this posture ladder anymore?
Well, if you look at even the way that Ashtanga is structured, it can be misleading. Primary, intermediate, advanced. Oh, I want to be advanced.
I
Yeah.
want to get to
I
the
want to be advanced. Yeah, let's be advanced. So, running through these postures, I got through every posture of Ashtanga Yoga and all the pranayamas by 1977. I had done them all. And if you get there, then what?
then what?
So first you ask yourself a question like, where's the bliss? Where's
Right.
the samadhi, man? I did it. I went the formula. I put all the ingredients for the cake. Where's the
Where's
bliss?
the final
Where's the
limb?
stuff?
Yeah.
Because we're linear thinkers in the Western world. Even with the limbs, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara. What limb am I at, man? Can I get certified in pratyahara? Can I get a certificate of
You're still
whatever?
not certified, right?
I'm not certified in it. I'm uncertifiable, honestly.
That's
So
humbling,
we,
man.
we got this linear idea,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of paradoxical things in nature, and that could be a whole nother series of discussions about the paradoxical nature of yoga.
I even
On
felt that
one
in your teaching when you just taught me about the opposites. There's so many different layers within
there's
that.
layers and layers, but also philosophically, there's different paradoxes. On one hand, if you're looking from outside, looking at a window at a bunch of people doing their song, it's a gymnastics class.
100%.
Yeah. So the paradox is we do all of this physical stuff with the ultimate aim being to understand that we are not this physical stuff. Because ultimately, you got to give this thing up. This car is going to go away. It's going to fall apart or just die or whatever. You know, there's not too many 200-year-old yoga people around. So the paradox is, why do we do it? Well, we have a vehicle. So the key is to use the vehicle to gain greater understanding of ourself. And another way to think of it is the real yoga is what you cannot see.
Mm,
A friend of mine's blind from birth. She's done my teacher training course. She could adjust you in primary, intermediate. She's never seen anything in her life. Yeah. Let's try to put her name is Joanna. Let's put herself in her situation for a moment, which is virtually impossible if we've ever seen anything, but we'll try. Okay. We've
try
never seen anything.
from birth.
Okay. Now, you've never seen a yoga book. There's no Instagram. There's no YouTube. There's no mirror. You can see no one else in class. Now, what is yoga? What's left?
What's that?
How do you feel? The real yoga is what we cannot see.
Chills.
And even though in yoga we tell people that's the case, but then it's all about what we can do. Even yoga teachers, on one hand, will say, "Welcome to yoga. There's no competition in yoga. We're all equal on the mat. It doesn't matter if you're young or old, or flexible or stiff, or strong or weak. We're all equal. There's no competition. Now stop what you're doing and look at my student over here, Betty Sue. Oh my God, she's incredible, right? She can stand on one hand, both her legs on her head. I bet you've never seen anything like that. I bet you wish you could do that. Wow, isn't she amazing? Go, Betty Sue, go."
It's very
There's no
hypocritical.
competition in yoga. How many times has a teacher stopped the class and said, "Look at my student over here, Billy Ray. That is the stiffest person I've ever seen in my life. He can't balance to save his life. He's weak. He falls all the time. But listen to his breath. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't he focused?" So there's this paradoxical nature, and the pendulum will swing. The thing about yoga is that physical stuff is only going to entertain us for so long. Why do people keep doing this for decades? The physicality is only fun and interesting for a while. Yeah. And so you got to get
Mm,
a taste of something else that's going on beneath the surface. And there's all of these hills and valleys. It's easy to be inspired when you're becoming stronger and more flexible and all that.
mm,
For most people, the longevity of your life through decades is going to be on a plateau where nothing much is changing. We think it's going to always be like this, but a lot of it is where nothing much changing.
Interesting.
And you can even get discouraged and go away because you realize, oh, nothing's changing, man. Nothing's changing. I feel something changing. And it's getting worse. Yeah. Oh, forget it. I'm not doing yoga anymore. I'll do something else. Go away from it. And then you come back and you realize life up on the plateau was kind of nice.
Mm,
I felt really good, but it was so commonplace, I took it for granted.
wow.
So sometimes you got to go away from it just to realize that's a good place living on the plateau. And
Interesting.
then there's even a point where all of us will begin to diminish. Sometimes yoga isn't about constant progress. It's slowing the rusting phases of life. It can just slow it down a little. And there's one thing that I feel strongly about, which is life is easier with yoga.
Mm.
I'm like a caveman. Like, "Hmm, hmm, do yoga. Feel good. No yoga. Don't feel good. Do yoga." The
And
only reason anyone should do this stuff is if when you do it, you feel better.
wow.
Keep doing it. If not, do something else. I'm not an Ashtanga evangelist out to save the world with this stuff. There's a lot of ways to do yoga. There's other things to do besides yoga. If somebody wants to know how to use the tool, I'll show them.
Wow.
But it's up to them then how to use the tool. It's got to be unconditional as a teacher.
So well said. I could listen to you all day. So, when in your practice did you feel as if you were able to sort of find that wisdom or that freedom in such a disciplined, structured practice? Like, when did it, was it right away? Is it just your nature of who you are? Or was it later on, did you start to see this things working outside of your yoga practice? And then you were able to make that shift? Because your teachers were kind of strict. They don't have the same perspective perhaps that you have.
They were strict, but they were fun.
They were fun,
They
huh?
were fun. David Williams was fun. Rome was fun. They're all fun people,
Rome's
man.
my grandpa.
Yeah, they were fun
Hey,
people.
that's awesome, man.
Even Patabi Joyce was funny. I mean, we laughed. We worked hard, but we had fun doing it, yeah? Um, but I'll say, I don't know if I'm wise. I don't know if this is wisdom, but they're just different ways that I see things now, yeah? Because you see things at one phase of life, and it looks a little different, but it doesn't mean that that wasn't wise then also.
Mm,
But how the wisdom manifests changes, yeah? And wisdom that is longer lasting, not dependent upon some physical attribute, is deeper. And wisdom that, and understanding that there is a responsibility, if you gain good energy from this, to
mm.
share it. Not
Wow,
just hoard it.
it's not. It's not
Some
what it's
people
about.
get this idea, do your yoga and then just place yourself in a little box and hold on to your good juice all day.
What's the point?
No, get out and make the world a better place. The world needs good vibes.
Do you think
Yeah.
it's selfish to kind of run away from society and isolate yourself?
Ish
Ish.
means pertaining to, ISH. Put it at the end of a word, pertaining to. So something pertaining to the self is not a bad thing.
Ooh.
You need a certain amount of some
Ish.
of yes, of knowledge and attention to the self so that you can help others. But if it's a tipping point that it's 100% of that, it's all
Mm,
about me, me, me. The only reason you want to have about me is so that I can do something for you and that person. Then it's a healthy thing. Yeah.
I love that.
And I mean, in times of struggle, it's hard to be helping other people. If I'm drowning, I can't invite you to come in and swim with me.
Right.
So first we got to learn to tread water and to get some energy going, yeah.
I like-
But a paradoxical thing about that in and of itself is sometimes it's so hard to get things going for ourselves. Maybe reach out and help someone else that's having a harder time.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's what it means to
So it's
empower.
the whole yoga thing and even teaching. I have this belief that a good teacher creates thinking students, and the best of all teachers create students that don't need them anymore. That you've provided tools so that they are their own entity.
Mm,
You know the word guru?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. Do you know the literal translation?
I don't.
Darkness to light. So here's the image. There's a cave. It's dark in the cave. I have a candle.
Mm,
There's no way I have to light this candle. I'm stumbling around in the dark. Way back in the deep recesses of the cave, I see a little glow. I approach and there's someone sat there. They've got a candle with a flame on it. And they look and they go, oh, you need to light that. And they extend their candlestick with the flame on. I touched the wick of my candle. I got light, darkness to light. So they shared the light. Notice in this story, this conversation didn't happen. Oh, you want to light your candle? Well, first you have to agree to these terms. You'll agree that I'm the only candle lighter you'll ever have, that my candle lighting is the best candle lighting in the world, and no one else can ever light your candle. And if you think you're going to talk to somebody else about lighting your candle, I'm going to blow your candle out because blah, blah, all that stuff. It's unconditional. There's knowledge, share the knowledge.
and you live that. That's the thing. I felt that as soon as gave you a hug outside of the podcast room. It's like this energy. You didn't tell me to sign a contract that, I can't do Ashtanga anywhere else. But coming back to our earlier conversation, you mentioned there is this kind of attraction and draw to this hierarchical, teacher that's like my way or the highway. Why are people attracted to that? And for me, it's personally a turnoff. But why do
But
you think?
why are people in general attracted to dogmatic, charismatic leaders, religious leaders, spiritual leaders, political leaders? Why?
I don't know because they
I'll
don't
tell
have
you
they don't
my
have it.
belief. It's much easier for me to follow you. Someone that is that dogmatic, you think it must be true. Listen how convinced they are of it.
Mm,
Yeah. And it's much easier to follow someone else than to make up my own mind
wow.
and to tread my own path. So, dogmatic leaders, political leaders, if I have some fear inside and they convey to me that they're going to protect me from that thing I'm frightened of,
No brainer.
yeah, great. It's a no brainer because all I got to do is follow. Yeah.
So it's a much more difficult task for you to show me the tools, give me the tools, and have me create my own destiny or create my own decisions from that place.
My belief is that the guru is the practice, is not a person.
Mm,
The duty of a teacher is to encourage, to inspire, and to facilitate practice. And then you will learn from your practice and you take responsibility for your own actions in this life.
mm,
Yoga means we got to take responsibility. If I'm a follower of someone else, I just go, well, I'm following what they did, and there's all these other people doing it. So it's not falling on me personally.
wow. I mean, I feel like you've all,
Let's just come back to that for a
yeah,
moment. Check it out. Dogmatic leaders, whatever it is, politics, religion, spirituality, whatever,
it's all around us.
you can't question them. It comes down to you can't question. What's up with that? Think about that for a moment.
It's very
Whether it's
closed minded.
politicians or whatever, you disagree,
You're done.
done. Yeah. Oh, you follow these rules. I think that's an insecurity. Yeah.
Very much so.
Even to say, don't study with any other teacher, I'm like, what? Are you frightened they're going to learn something that from them that you couldn't learn from me? I'm like, study with everybody. And they say, well, that can confuse a student. I go, it could confuse them, but it also might enlighten them.
It might.
Some people want one teacher. Great. Some people, musicians, will play one instrument. Other people, like Prince, could play anything. You're going to tell me only play the guitar, Prince? Yeah, so
Wow.
let people follow their heart. As a teacher, the goal is to give information in a positive way so that people are inspired to use the tool. And if you want to use a different tool, fine. Yeah.
And it invokes that curiosity, that play. You're a very playful person, like even just messing around.
Yeah.
I feel like you're intrigued by all forms of movement. Um, how has y- how is yoga in general? Do you feel like it's lost its essence outside of the classrooms you're in? Obviously, do you feel like when you just look around and you just see yoga as what it's turned into, has it lost its edge?
Well, Grandpa Swenson sees.
What does Grandpa Swenson think about that?
Grandpa Swenson doesn't even think about these things. What other people do is none of my responsibility. The only thing I control is what's in front of me. The
What's
people
that?
that are in the class, other people, I have no judgment of that. People are doing yoga, they're doing something. I mean, people try to bait me into saying stuff bad all the time. They'll be like,
Yeah, it's not
"Oh,
mine.
David,
David said this.
what do you think about beer yoga?" And in my mind, I'm thinking you put pints of Guinness around your mat and do a sun salutation and slug one back, and the last one standing is the yogi. And they go, no, 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 David, that's not it, silly. We go into a microbrewery and we do a little practice. Afterwards, we have a few brews. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, David,
No judgment.
what do you think about goat yoga? And I'm like, goats are doing yoga now? No, no, no. You're just in a class and the baby goats are crawling and pooping on you. And it's all, and I go, well, okay, cool.
No judgment.
What, David, what do you think about nude yoga? I'm like,
I did that. Did that
downward
in Maui,
dog,
no?
too much information. I can see your bandhas. But honestly, whatever someone says about some kind of, what do you think of blah, blah, blah yoga?
Yeah.
The next question I ask is the person that left that nude goat beer drinking yoga class, did they feel better after? Were they more patient with people around them? If
Mm.
the answer is yes, then I'm a fan.
So that's how
So,
would you say that's how you know your yoga practice is really working? If you leave feeling better than you left?
well, you don't want to feel feeling worse,
That's true.
but there's a thing with feeling good. We want that,
Feeling good's
but
one
it's
part of
not
it.
the only thing. It's what do you do with the good feeling after?
Mm,
Because there are some people that feel good, but you can look around. There's some flexible, strong, mean, agile, selfish, egotistical people in the world.
right. What if you've
So if you just take this tool and you use it to build this massive ego to feel better than other people, what's the point? So, but that's up to each individual. I'm not here to police people's lives. What you do with that tool, you got to take responsibility, man. I'm not going to go out and tell somebody that should or shouldn't be this way or that way.
right. So what's the real yardstick of progress in someone's yoga practice besides feeling good? Like how do they actually know if they're improving? Because clearly you said it's not mastering the poses. It's not the all four series.
Well, the thing is, all of that can be part of it. So my wife Shelley and I, we run a month of Mysore classes on Maui. We call it Mom. Mysore on Maui. We say, come visit Mom
I love
in
that.
August. And in that room, there's people doing every series of Ashtanga Yoga. And there's a phase of Ashtanga, I call it the Labrador dog phase. I remember that phase, just like, "Ooh, ooh, give me some more. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, throw the ball again. Yeah. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah. First series, second, third, fourth. Yeah.
Let's
We'll
go.
practice twice a day. Come on. Yeah. That's a fun phase. So there's people at that phase. There's other people in the room that are broken.
Mm,
There's somebody else that's never done a sun salutation in the room.
mm.
And there's people at all different phases. My duty is not to look and squash the enthusiasm of the Labrador dog phase, because that's fun. I can go, I remember that. Yeah, I'll facilitate that for you in your practice. Great.
I love
There's
that.
somebody else that's busted, and I go, I'll show you how to practice and modify things. There's somebody else that's learning a sun salutation. I just try to instill them the joy of the practice.
Oh my
And so
goodness. So it resonates
I
deeply.
would say, don't try to analyze. How does somebody know if they like orange juice?
I gotta try it.
You don't have to be a biochemist to understand what happens when you drink orange juice to get nutritional benefit. Do your practice. Feed your body.
Mm,
And I mean, I've said this in other settings as well, but imagine this practice. It's like in a Star Wars or movie or something, yeah, where the enemy ship is attacking and they're shooting these missiles, and you push a button, you get a force field. Yeah. That's what yoga does. We create a pranic force field. We cannot change the difficulties that are going to come at us. Check out all the stuff we have no control over: the weather, the economy, violence. There's so much stuff we do not have control over. The one thing we do have control of is how do we respond to the challenges we're confronted with in life. When we practice yoga, when these challenges come, they go through this filtration system. Doesn't mean they're not going to hit us, but it slows it down. I'm going to react and respond differently.
ooh,
So we build this pranic force field, and life's problems are coming at us. And then the force field starts to weaken. I got to do some practice again, pump up the prana. Yeah.
wow, I've never heard it put like that.
So I
Really
look at it
interesting.
like that, but you don't have to understand why it's working. We don't have to analyze every little thing. How do I know if I'm advancing? Don't worry about live your life.
Uh,
Be a more patient parent, you know, and you don't have to teach yoga to be a yogi. I don't consider myself a yogi. I'm a guy that practices, yeah. And I honestly consider myself to be a teacher with no students
mm,
because I don't own anybody. I don't look and say that's my student. I don't own you.
that's yeah.
Yeah. I'm a teacher with no students.
It's really, really powerful to hear that coming from you, David. It's a lot of, I mean, you have a lot of humility, but it's also just so pure, and I can feel I can feel it from your heart. I can feel like it's really because you see teachers, they get popular, they get students, and then most of them fall in the sense that they just kind of completely end up feeding into the vices and the things that they're preaching to
Well,
not.
there's a joke. It becomes a problem when you believe your own advertising, right? Keep it simple, yeah? And here's a dangerous position as a teacher, right? Of anything really, but we'll talk about yoga as a teacher in front
Yeah.
of the room and people are doing it and they start feeling really good. And they look at you and going, "Oh, thank you. I'm feeling so good because of you." And if you start going, "Yeah,
That's all me.
imagine I'm a bank teller back when people used to go to banks." Okay. And you come in and you give me money, and my duty is to take that money and deposit it in your account. I'm just the bank teller. I put it in your account. What happens the day that you hand me money and I say thank you and put it in my pocket? And I start going, yeah, thanks, thanks, thanks. It's all mine. That's what the praise is. The moment you go thanks and you put it in your pocket is a problem. You take it and you deposit it in the bank account, their account, or you just go, I'm so glad you're feeling great. That's the yoga working. Nothing to do with me.
Mm. So we got to be careful with praise.
Well, it feels good to be to somebody likes what you're doing.
It's good to get that
Yeah,
energy
it's
return.
positive thing, but don't let it go to your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just a person, it's the juice they're feeling. There's a wonderful movie, I think it might be on Netflix or something. You ever seen it called Kumare?
Kumare. No,
Kumare.
I'll have to check it out.
Oh, it's so fun. I could tell you the gist of it. I don't
Yeah.
think it'll destroy the plot if I tell it to
Tell
you.
me. Yeah.
So there's this guy, Indian guy, and he goes, "Yeah, when I was a kid in India, my parents had gurus and these spiritual teachers are always coming around, but I didn't get it. I thought like, what are they getting from these people? They're just people." Go, so he says, "I'm going to do an experiment and see if I can become a guru." He says, "So first I have to grow my hair long and grow a beard, and I'm going to learn to talk like my grandmother." And I talk like my grandmother, and I grow a beard and long hair. And he's in the U.S. and he gets these two women that are in on the same thing, and they're going to promote him. I had friends hosted him in their studio and stuff. He goes, his name is Kumare, and these two
Oh,
girls are going like, "This guy's amazing," and he's
yeah.
inventing stuff like the blue light meditation. The blue light, you meditate on the blue light. The blue light only, you see the blue light, and you expand the blue light, and you will feel that energy.
You
And
can tell he spent some time in
and
India.
people are doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then they start looking at him going like, "Oh, do you notice when he's talking, I see an aura around him." And he's inventing like weird exercises. And every time they say something to him, he says, "It is not me. It is only you. You are experiencing this." And the more he says that, the more like, he's the real deal. He's the real deal. And he goes, "One day I will reveal to you the ultimate truth, the supreme truth I'm sharing with you." And they all meet in this house in the desert. And his followers, they're excited. Oh, this the cameras are filming him behind the scenes. He's in the bathroom. He cuts his hair, he shaves his beard, he puts on his blue jeans, and he walks out and goes, "My name's Rajesh. I'm no guru." Oh, some people freak out and he goes, "Look, the whole time, all that good stuff you were feeling had nothing to do with me.
Mm.
You manifest that yourself. It had nothing to do with it. It was powerful." And some people were mad. They said, "You cheated us." He said, I told you the truth the whole time. I said it had nothing to do with me."
It
So
just goes to
it's
show
just
you
an
too.
interesting thing, right? That,
Goes to show when you like look the part too, how you can
yeah,
kind of fool.
that's our stereotype. And I went through that in my life. I went searching for gurus. There are so many stories. I got through all the asanas by 1977. I went on a spiritual quest because I wanted to know more. Where are the eight limbs? Where's the samadhi?
Where is it?
I went off. I fasted. I ate nothing but grapes and grape juice for 40 days. I read St. Francis of Assisi. I meditated. I became a Hare Krishna, chanted Hare Krishna for 5 years, traveled around the world, had a guru, Brahmin initiation, a spiritual name, blah, 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 blah. I went round and round looking for all that stuff, you
Yeah.
know? And I came back, landed back on my mat in Samasthiti and realized I had been like the alchemist in Paulo Coelho's book.
Yeah. Just-
Everywhere I'd been looking, it was right there. My greatest spiritual teachers in my life were my parents.
wow.
They weren't wearing robes. They weren't twisting their bodies around. They taught me about unconditional love.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does everyone need to go on that journey though to find what
I don't know.
you know?
Everybody has their own journey. Imagine even it's like a relationship. Some people, the first person they meet, they're with them the rest of their life. Other people have a bunch of failed relationships and stuff. We all learn in different ways. And how I learn will be different so someone else learns. And the fact that someone else failed a bunch of times is irrelevant. It's only in the end do we get the message. The failures give some kind of juice.
They do. Because what if you were to tell me, Jonah, in your relationship, you're going to go through these triumphs, you're going to then have a family, and then it's going to turn out this way. But at the end, it's all going to be all right. This is how there,
You got to go through it on your own, right?
gotta
And
go through
find
it.
your own path. And I learned so much. It was Einstein, and this isn't going to be verbatim, but it's like every experience, there's something learned. It's actually impossible to not have had positive or negative. There's a lesson there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when life gives you shit, make compost.
I love
That's one of the most
I like
fertile
that better than the
things.
lemons because life tends to give me more shit than
Yeah,
lemons.
that's right. And so it's when things are shitty, it doesn't mean it's pleasant, but later you look back and that was fertile ground. Because if you can survive that stuff, it created some greater fertility. Look at the person that was born into wealth. They just took over a family business. They never had to do anything. They just stepped into the position. They're going to have a different relationship with money and this business than a person that worked 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for many, many years and built this thing from nothing. Yeah.
Very
There's a
different.
different appreciation. And so struggles are not a bad thing.
Is it possible to have the appreciation that someone went through by not having it? Let's just say, for
It's
example, us
possible.
us new yoga teachers, we find yoga and without is it possible for us to have the appreciation of where it came from truly without having to build it from the ground up in Maui?
Anything's possible because what we don't know about is past lives. We don't know about your parents. We don't know about all the other stuff in your life, other influences, other things you went through. How did Mozart just get up and start playing the piano as a virtuoso at like 7 years old or something, right? How did these things happen? So, because some people can go through adversities and not learn a thing. So we have our unique journey, and unfortunately, none of us have the guidebook for life. It's not like we're born and we get when this happens, look at this, and this is good. You got to go through it, and um,
Is the
there's something
practice?
called samskaras.
Yeah,
They're repeated patterns
the
in our
karmic.
life. Yeah, could be karmic, could just be things that we tools that
Those like
we.
I've heard them as said as like the emotional imprints, maybe.
Well,
Some
here's the story. I'm walking through the forest. Yeah, and I'm walking along, and at the end of this path, I fall off a cliff and land in the river. Whoa, I get swept down there and I climb back up. I'm like, wow, that was intense. And I'm lost. And I see this path again. Oh, I'm back on the path. And I start walking along. It's the same path. Whoa, poof, I fall into the river. And I keep doing that. And I'm walking, going like, this is definitely the path. I see my own footprints here. This is so familiar. This has got to be right. Ah, poof. And I keep doing it over and over and over and over. Yeah.
what did you learn?
Why would I keep doing that, walking that same path, even if I knew that the result at the end wasn't good? Why would I do it anyway?
Maybe because you were addicted to the pattern or
Well, it's because at least I knew the result.
you knew it.
That's
Familiar.
more comforting. Even if the result is going to be bad, there's a comfort in the
Ooh.
familiarity of knowing rather than the fear of stepping into the unknown.
So are you constantly
So at some
searching?
point, there are tools that we created. Some of them are still working great. Others, their shelf life is over.
They're too
The
familiar.
tool work well, not that they're too familiar, it doesn't work anymore. The thing that you were doing, it doesn't
Yeah.
apply to your life now. Like what applied when you were a teenager, maybe it doesn't apply when you're a parent,
Wow.
or whatever, right? So you have to adjust and come up with a new tool, discard the ones that don't work, or refine them, or create new ones. But the difficulty is that means stepping off the path that's so familiar into the unknown. And you still might fall off the cliff, but it's the only way to break the pattern.
And can you do that within a confined space of your practice? Is there ways to do that with the mental adjustment of coming into a pose? Obviously, it's nuanced, but is that a perspective you could take into a personal
You can take it
practice?
into anything. You can take it into business. You can take it into relationships. You could take it into your yoga practice. The practice on the mat is just a microcosm for life. How do you deal with the postures you love? How do you deal with the ones you hate? All that stuff, right? So
That really resonates.
if we can figure that out, and we want to have answers, we want to have certainty, but it's not like that.
Just that piece alone, I feel like gave me all the answers that I wanted from you in the sense that my next question was going to be how does yoga show up in your relationships? And I feel like you just said it. Go in without an expectation of the result. Go in, sometimes me and my wife will go on a walk and instead of doing our normal loop, let's see where we go, you know? And that's kind of sometimes what the practice is all about. It is a metaphor for life, but sometimes you got to just not go with what's familiar because there's growth and there's something new on the other side of that. Es-
And understand that even though you're in a relationship, you're two individual people. Yeah. You're sharing life, you're sharing these things, but you each have unique personalities. And my wife and I are really different. Yeah. On so many levels, and it works.
It
Yeah.
works.
And if you have some fiery relationship in the beginning, well, that fire goes into everything. It's in the loving, it's in the intensity. It's not like you just have it in the fun places,
Right. No,
right?
it's
So it's everywhere, and you learn that that's just, this is part of this experience, yeah?
wow.
And your relationship with your yoga, your relationship with another being,
Yeah.
yeah? I'm not a parent.
You got a
And
lot of
that
you.
seems even more challenging. Like you can, I know so many families that have like 2 or 3 kids, and they're all totally different. Same food, same environment, same rules, everything the same, and polar opposite kids. Yeah. And so as a parent, I bow down to those parents. I mean, I like I said, I honor my parents when I think back on just how
That
spiritual they were, and what
gotta
they
honor your
did.
parents
Yeah, man. It's like
brought you
not
in.
everybody has good relationships with their parents, and sometimes it's rocky. And later you look back and go, I get it. Wow, I put them through some stuff, right?
You have that empathy. You have
Yeah, I
that
get
awareness.
empathy.
Wow. Do you had a lot of yoga kids though?
I guess I'm the fun uncle,
Yeah, you are. I might have to start calling you Unc.
Uncle David. I've been called worse.
You're not a grandpa yet, man. Come
Yeah,
on.
well, I don't mind being a grandpa.
um, just a few more questions. We could sit here for hours, man. But you talked a little bit about um, adjustments. You said some people back in the day they just kind of stopped giving them just because people were getting injured. I still hear from some of the local Miami community people kind of just going too far, getting pushed too far. How does your mindset around adjustments?
Good adjustment,
Yeah,
good memory. Bad adjustment, bad memory.
good
Would you
adjustment.
agree that Tim Miller and I used to teach a class called Teaching with Your Hands? So I'm going to be doing this teacher intensive starting here in Miami on Monday. Yeah.
Excited. I'll be
And
there
this is
tomorrow.
kind of stuff that we talk about in the teacher thing. Why make hands-on adjustment? Why do it all? Why not just give verbal cues? So
So,
and I
good.
and I'll ask that question, get a little feedback from people. I'll say, well, would you agree that we can create a muscle memory in someone's body? Yeah, great. And I say, well, are all memories in life good? No. Good adjustment, you just instilled a good memory in that person. Bad adjustment, bad memory.
How do you know what's a good
Okay,
adjustment?
so then that's the next phase of the when I run these teacher training courses. What is a good adjustment? A good adjustment is, wow, that felt great. Oh my God, I didn't know I could do that. Whoa, wonderful. Bad adjustment, ow, they were touched inappropriately or something like that. You've now instilled a memory that is got fear, anger, anxiety, mistrust, all that stuff.
That creates a
So
sankara.
before we make an adjustment, I give a set of guidelines. Yeah. And tonight I'm doing a Mysore class where people just do their practice. And I say, in a Mysore class, I never think of myself as the master in the room. I'm an asana waiter. Mat number 7, Rich Asana. I'm there to serve the needs of the student. Yeah. So
An asana waiter.
before
I love
making
that.
an adjustment, I give these simple guidelines. The first is called the 0 to 10 rule. 0 means I have not even touched a student's body yet. That's 0. 10 is the maximum amount of pressure I'll ever apply. So let's say I go and I start to adjust 0, 1, 2, 3. Maybe I stopped at 30% of my power. What are some reasons I stopped?
Feeling resistance.
Okay, so there's a tactile sense. So an adept teacher can feel something. I can look. You can see tension in the body. What could I listen for?
Sounds of
The
the breathing, the
breath
breath.
or ow? Or how about this one? No thanks, I don't want an adjustment. Teachers need to instill power in the students. Too much power is in the hands of the teacher. I was at a teacher meeting once in England, and all these teachers were talking, and now it's all over the place, but they were saying, yeah, we've come up with this new idea because this whole issue with adjusting, there's a little card. I don't know what the card is. Maybe it's a hand with a red line through it or something. And you set this card, and that says that the student does not want to be adjusted, and we're thereby empowering the student. I said, you're not empowering them. You're enabling them. What do you mean, David? Well, they said, well, the teacher, they're intimidated to say something to the teacher. I go, that's the problem. If you agree that this practice is training for life, how is that training them for life? What that card tells me is the teacher is far too scary, this entity up here,
You
that you
can't just
can't
tell them.
say anything to them. So the most you can hope for is to put this card on your mat and hope they don't abuse you in some way. Oh, David, but they're frightened to say it. But this is training. Just say it over and over and over. Instill it in your actions.
Yeah.
If this is training for life and that person's out on the street and someone is being abusive verbally or whatever, what do they do? Pull a little card out of their back pocket?
This is
Just
so
just
real.
look
This
up
is
and
so
say,
real. I've never been a fan of those little cards because
I'll
yeah,
just
it creates a
say,
separation.
yeah,
We're
and just empower the student to say no. If I come up to adjust you and you go, no thanks, I don't question, just go, okay, I just
you
leave.
honor and respect that.
And
Yeah.
in the Mysore class I'm teaching tonight, I'm going to say, if you want an adjustment, you get my attention, I'll come help you. If I come to adjust you, you don't want my help, you tell me to go away.
So
And
simple.
I say it over and over. Instill power in the student, empower the students. I don't care who the teacher is. You can say no. Yeah.
Speaking of power yoga, which even Brian says that's a made up term, it all comes from Ashtanga, thanks to you. What do you have any funny stories with Brian before we just kind of wrap up? Any,
Oh man, we don't have enough time. So many funny stories.
or even my pops, anyone that
Yeah,
comes
you
to
know
mind?
what? Your family are part of the legacy of the foundations of yoga in the West. Yeah. All of them, yeah, they made a big impact on yoga in the world, and we're there in those early formative years, and we've all tread our unique paths. But I'll tell you something different about the early days of practice. Whether it's in Ashtanga and all these people that end up doing their own things, power yoga, vinyasa, we all love each other and we're friends. We're all still buddies.
Yeah.
Nowadays, teachers fight and argue over stupid things and who's better. We were just like, oh, you learned it like that. I learned it like this. Huh? Want to go to lunch? It was simple and free. Yeah. And so the power yoga thing actually was Brian and Beryl Binder Birch in New York at the same time. Brian, West Coast, East Coast. Yeah.
This is the
And,
tea.
and, and I mean, I've been around this yoga for a while. When I started yoga in 1969, there was no such thing as a vinyasa in the Western world. There was none. It was when Ashtanga was introduced to the West, vinyasa came into play.
Mm,
Fine. And what happened from there is a lot of early Ashtanga practitioners did their own thing. Brian, he was like, I like this flowing thing, but I want to do my own thing. Have people hold postures longer. Yeah. Power yoga. Beryl Binder Birch was teaching traditional Ashtanga, but she had a publisher, Simon and Schuster, like, Ashtanga, that's a stupid name. Who knows what that is? And she was working with athletes. They called it power yoga, but taught traditional Ashtanga. Then there's someone named Sean Korn, big Ashtanga practitioner. She liked the principles of the vinyasa and vinyasa flow, but created her own thing in spiritual activism. Jivamukti, David Life, and Sharon Gannon, big Ashtanga practitioners. They hosted Patabi Joyce in New York. They were
wow,
major Ashtanga
chills, man.
people. They were like, we like this flow, but we want to bring in things spiritual practices and animal rights and stuff we feel powerful about. Jivamukti Yoga. Anna Forrest, Forrest Yoga. She was a
Yep.
big Ashtanga
On a
practitioner.
forest. I heard
She
some
kept all the
stories.
handstands.
She was strong. Brian
She's
told me she
strong. Yeah, she's
she could she was
really
the only she's Brian said she could do more boat to handstands than her
she was a
than him.
handstand queen. Yeah,
Incredible,
anyway.
yeah. How
So
come you never wanted to name it anything other than what it
I like
was?
it. I like Ashtanga.
Respect.
And I just do it. I respect all these other people because they changed it. They changed the name. What's more confusing is people that use the word Ashtanga and change it. And then people come into a class and they think it's first series. And I go, look, Ashtanga yoga is choreography. It doesn't mean it's better than something else, but it is what it
It
is.
is what
If
it
you want to
is.
learn the Nutcracker Ballet, these are the steps. If you want to learn a Beethoven symphony, these are the chords. Change it, do
So
something
you
else.
actually respect that people have changed the name because it
Yeah. Better to change it and change the
because if
name.
it's a
Name it after yourself. Call it turbo yoga. Do your thing. It's all okay.
man, yeah, I remember, the way my father had kind of taught me and just evolved the practice. He never named it. He just called it vinyasa because that was the evolution of Ashtanga. It was Ashtanga vinyasa. And, his kind of story is he came home from India after Rome took him and Brian, and it was too cold in his basement. So he just added some of the standing poses in the standing series after Surya Namaskara B and kind of kept the one breath, one movement cadence. And he called that sun salutation C, which a lot of people are like, what the heck is a sun C? Because that doesn't exist in Ashtanga. But he always, in all his trainings and everything that I learned, he teaches people Ashtanga as it is. And your book is a mandatory read in all of his trainings. So if it wasn't for my father, I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now. But I think there is something really powerful in learning the foundations and coming back to the roots before you branch off and try other variations. But maybe that's dogmatic in itself
I
anyway.
mean, I just let people do their thing.
Yeah.
Ashtanga has never, nor will it ever be the most popular yoga because it's hard and people don't want to do the same thing every day over and over and over. It's one reason that vinyasa flow, because you can mix it up, do different sequences. It's also like Tai Chi. I
Yeah.
don't do Tai Chi, but I lived in Hong Kong in the 80s and I watched people in the park doing Tai Chi. Yeah.
Something yogic
Tai
about
Chi
it.
is the same sequence of you get one sequence of movements, you do it your whole life. So imagine somebody's doing this sequence of movement, and they've been doing it for 3 years, and I look at them and go, "Wow,
Yeah.
look how graceful they are." And then I see someone else doing the exact same thing for 60 years, and I go, "Whoa." I
It's
see a
refined.
bird in flight, I see energy. Don't you think in that 60 years, that person had to have a few days like this? Boring. Been doing this same stuff for 60 years. Must be a way to
Yeah.
change it up. I know. I'll flap my and jump and I'll put some weights on my arms and turbo Tai Chi is born. But Tai Chi is it's just like Ashtanga. It's a thing.
It's that refinement. It's coming back to something.
Through repetition, the magic is forced to arise. That's an alchemical precept.
Wow.
And so
Quoting you on
that's
that.
that's the wonderful thing about Ashtanga, but it's also a thing people don't like.
Yeah.
But I respect that. I don't say it's the best yoga. I just like it.
You just
Somebody
like it.
want to do something else? Great.
Did
Be
it give
happy.
you do you feel like it gave you a strong physical foundation for other movement modalities?
Well, I
Because you're an
think,
athlete. You're
well, I
like
believe that yoga is the greatest, most universal tool on so many levels. Yoga helps everything else I've ever done in my life. The other stuff didn't help the yoga. I like surfing. I've run 2 marathons. I've done martial arts. I've been active, my whole life. And so the yoga helped all those
It
things.
helps.
My brother wrote a book before Ashtanga. It was called Yoga Helps.
Shout out Doug.
Yeah, shout out Doug. Yoga Helps.
Yoga helps.
Yeah.
That's a great title.
And it was one of the first yoga books, yeah, in like 1970. And
Yeah, he's a legend as
but
well.
I like to move, and the yoga helps the movement. And I've even had yoga people or Ashtanga people say, "Oh, don't go running; it'll make your hips tight." And I go, or I'd have runners say to me, or weightlifters, "Oh, David, I like to lift weights. My yoga teacher said I shouldn't because it'll make me tight." I say, "Do you like lifting weights?" "I love it." "Oh, there's your answer." I say, "You'll be a flexible weightlifter, but you'll be less flexible if you lift weights than somebody that doesn't. But who cares? The goal isn't to have flexy hips. The goal is to do this stuff to make all the other stuff you do easier."
And that's the essence of longevity, isn't it?
I don't know yet.
Hey,
We'll
how old are
find.
you?
I'll be 70 in August.
Oh my God. And you were able to just flip me over there. I'll show the video
Yeah,
after,
you
but
you,
he
you
freaking,
surrendered to that.
yeah, but still, I'm a 200 pounds and you easily
Oh,
flip me over, which yoga works.
yoga works.
Um,
Yoga helps.
David, one last question. If there's anything else, if you could just give one piece of advice to a student early on their path, or maybe not even a yoga student, just someone in the younger generation to find their passion, or perhaps one piece of advice you could give someone to help live in their authenticity, what would that be?
Don't be frightened to try new things.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's it.
keep it simple. It can be scary to step out of your comfort zone, and you have to be a little responsible with things like if you're raising a family or whatever, it might not be good to just stop everything else you're doing. In my life, I've worked all manner of jobs. I've done landscaping, construction, uh, I've been a waiter, I've dug ditches, I've whatever. I needed to pay my rent, yeah. So sometimes you just got to do some unpleasant job or whatever
Do what
for the immediate needs. And then but keep watering the seeds of hope and dreams
Mm,
when you can, right? And you're gonna fall down a bunch of times.
yeah,
Rarely does someone have a dream and take 3 steps and they manifest it, yeah? Look at most successful business people and whatever, they've had a lot of failed businesses and other things, so don't feel discouraged if it didn't go well.
yeah,
Just, pick yourself up, figure out what went wrong with that, regroup, try it again.
that's the
Yeah,
process.
it's a process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's messy. So this memoir I wrote, my story, it's called "Only Dead Fish Go with the Flow" is the
I
title.
heard the theme song.
Yeah, there's a theme song, and you can find out how to
I'll
get it.
link that in
Jonah
the
will link it.
It's really good,
It
actually. It's still in my head.
it's a yeah, warning you might stick in your head, the theme song.
What does that
So,
mean? Only dead fish can flow.
well, there's a long subtitle on purpose. "Only Dead Fish Go with the Flow. My fantastic, sometimes clumsy, often humorous, occasionally frightening, always sincere, and possibly inspiring tales of living life in pursuit of my dreams."
Say
So
that
this
again.
it's a saying from Texas, yeah, and it's also a little bit of an answer for yoga people go, "Just go with the flow, man." I'm like, but salmon can't say that. You can't be a salmon and go with the flow, man. Sometimes life is pushing against you. If I went with the flow, which was mean whatever was the norm surrounding me when I was growing up, I'd probably be in East Texas in a bar with a broken nose and a name like Lugnut. I mean, the life I was living. I became a vegetarian. I was doing yoga. It was weird.
Was not with the flow.
It was not the flow. And
Wow.
so sometimes you you got to keep swimming. However, understand that going against the flow isn't easy.
It's not.
And there's gonna be a lot of haters in life. When you step out and do your own thing, you got to be prepared to stand behind it because you believe in it,
Mm,
even when no one else does.
amen to that.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you're dismissive of other people, but it requires a certain fortitude. And you look at movers and shakers throughout history, they were never well behaved.
No. And it's yeah, you
And they
gotta
came up with look at Steve Jobs or people, came up with
they're
these.
rebels.
Yeah, they came up with some concept, and went through it, and it didn't just happen overnight, and our whole life is like that. So
Yeah.
take chances,
Mm.
and also I've mentioned this in other discussions, but there can be a tendency in yoga to feel like we're the open-minded, compassionate, loving ones in the world. We have these minds and we're accepting and all this stuff. But you realize it's easy to be like that when you surround people that look like you, eat like you, dress like you, think like you, and talk like you. Then it's real easy to be like that. You want to put that open-minded, compassionate heart to a test. Sit down with people with total opposite political views, different dietary choices, total opposite from you, and see how it goes. That's what's going to save this world. Just compartmentalizing and living in bubbles with people that are just like us is the problem we've got right now. The bubbles don't overlap, right? They just bounce off each other.
Yep.
And so I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but that's the only hope I've got for this world, this planet,
Mm.
politics, everything is for a way for people with opposite views and different understandings
Mm.
to find some kind of common ground. Can yoga help that? I don't know if it helps us to truly have an open mind and to remain calm and be open to other and to listen to other
Listen.
people rather than just this is my opinion. I'm going to beat you over the head with my opinion until you agree with me.
This
And so I don't know where it's going to go, but
yeah. Hey,
we can try. Yeah.
David, this entire conversation, just truthfully, honestly, thank you. So liberating, refreshing, enlightening, and just so real. So I really I didn't come in with too many expectations. I just, wanted to meet you and see where all the greatness came from. And we didn't even talk about triangle pose.
No, we didn't.
And I'm so glad we didn't, I
Yeah.
the
There's enough
lessons.
people talking about that.
Yeah. I mean, we made an Instagram reel, but that's for later. But seriously, thank you so much. Gratitude for the path you've created for so many of us. And yeah, I can't wait to take your class tomorrow.
Thank you, Jonah. I love you and your whole
Yeah.
family. Give them all a
Oh,
big old
I will.
hug from me.
Love you too. Oh,
And to all of you out there, thank you for listening.